Welcome to Dedee Shattuck Gallery. We were very lucky to have Dedee offer us her gallery for a retrospective of Marc's work. It was supposed to be in March with a memorial for Marc, but because of COVID, it didn't happen. But since then, Dedee decided she wouldn't open the gallery this year, so we're lucky enough to have the opportunity to keep Marc's retrospective up all summer. And we've been bringing people little by little to see the show. And if anyone is interested, they can contact me. And so this show shows works of Marc from 1973 to 2019. And I'll let Antoine talk to tell you how he installed the show. This is Antoine, and how did you go about it?
Same way we go about most shows.
So hi, my name is Viera Levitt. I'm a gallery director at UMass Dartmouth, and I asked Nicole, St. Pierre, and Antoine to tell us about this exhibition. And also, I was lucky enough to be able to see this show a few weeks ago when Nicole graciously invited me to see this exhibition that nobody officially was able to see, unfortunately. So, and we also have Lasse Antonsen with us, who is my predecessor at the UMass Dartmouth. He's a former gallery director and a colleague of Marc St. Pierre. And I really want to thank everybody for joining us today, and especially you, Nicole and Antoine, to come to the gallery and opening the door there and letting us see this wonderful exhibition. So Antoine, so were you the one deciding how the exhibition is going to be organized? How did you come up with the concept of the show?
It just kind of seemed natural, and that just a good way to see it, kind of in general. Overall, it's kind of shows how there was color at the beginning, but the same shapes and things, forms are there, and then kind of went to a black and white gray, and then it kind of came back, but there's still a lot of the same kind of the same thread throughout the whole thing. So if you can see it in a chronological way, I feel like it kind of shows a development, I guess.
Yeah.
So we are gonna show the slideshow of the exhibition in a minute. But before we do, I wanted to ask Lasse Antonsen if he wanted to say a few words now, or whether we'll wait for a little longer.
I can say something just to introduce myself. I'm happy to be here as a friend of Marc's. It's an honor for me to participate in this event, and I look forward to talking more a little later.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lasse. So also back to Nicole. I see you have a puppy. Is that family puppy? We didn't introduce the pup there. So if we hear some sounds there, that's the dog. Would you mind walking us through the exhibition space and maybe starting chronologically a little bit? And if you wanted to have any remarks, Nicole, about the work, or Olivier, you're welcome to do that. But for me, it was interesting to see the very early work of Marc, because I mostly know his collages and layered work, but this was quite unusual to see.
Well, these were done when he was in a junior college in Quebec City. And it moved, that's like 1973, that's when we first met. And
how did you meet, Nicole?
Pardon?
How did you meet?
Oh, well, I was at the same school. We both had a motorcycle, and mine wouldn't start, and he was looking at me through a window. And so the next morning, he saw me with my helmet, and he came and said, "Oh, you're the girl with the motorcycle." And that's how it started.
So you didn't meet through art, you met through motorcycles.
Well, at the art school.
Oh, at the arts, okay. And did Marc study printmaking?
He studied printmaking at the end of his BFA. Mm-hmm. He was a painting major, but he had a printmaking minor. And he got involved with Terry Timeson came to the school to do a workshop, and Marc was the only person speaking English at the school. So he was Perry's assistant for the week. And then he got to go to work in Montreal for Perry at the Arachel printmaking studio for the summer. And then we moved to France and Switzerland in 76, 77. And he worked in William Hayter's studio in Paris, and then at the Centre de Gravure Contemporaine in Geneva. And after that, we went to Winnipeg, where he was master printer in a lithography shop for the summer. And after that, we went to Illinois, where he did his master degree in printmaking. So he finished in 79, and that's when we came to New Bedford, where he went to teach at Swain School of Design. And Swain School merged with UMass Dartmouth in 88. And he taught there until 2017, when he retired.
Well, you're like walking on encyclopedia there. It's wonderful. And the pieces that we see behind you, are they the painting? Are those the paintings from?
Those are paintings. Yeah, those were paintings that he did in 73. These are paintings he did in 75. And then we jumped to 77. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think he did this when we were in Geneva. This is a drawing. And this is a lithography that we've also done in 77. And then we moved to New Bedford, and he started doing a lot of etching. So these are etchings here.
Okay, so he moved to New Bedford just to be a faculty at Swain School, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you were the faithful wife following him through all these career changes.
Well, yeah, we got married in 73. And Antoine was born in Illinois in 78. And so we all moved together. We had our Volkswagen van, and we just came down here.
I can so picture you in that Volkswagen van. That's fantastic. And can we move to the other wall? Just to go chronologically.
These, I think, are silk screen. I think he was teaching some silk screen at Swain, and he made those. But those were 86, and they called Battle with Vinyl Siding because he was putting shingles on our house at that time, and people would stop by and say, "Why you're not putting vinyl siding on your house? It's much better." And he was getting really upset, so we called those Battle with Vinyl Siding.
So Marc could do anything, right? From those bicycles to like fixing anything in the world.
He could do anything. Antoine is just like him. He can do anything.
So that's why, Antoine, you are also working for Dedee Shattuck as an installer, right? Because you can climb the ladder and use any tool there is to put.
Yeah, we try to make it happen.
And he's helping doing the renovation in the apartment now too, replacing Marc.
So we can see a really beautiful view from the window of the gallery, and we can move to it's a really lovely space. And thank you again to Dedee Shattuck for organizing this show and for having us there today.
Yeah, we're really lucky to be able to use this beautiful space.
And these two collages are amazing. When I was there, and I'm really happy and lucky to have been there in person. You know, this really gave me like different idea of space. These were really strange, unusual collages, and play with the layering. And I can almost like see how that evolved into the later work. And
yeah, and he painted on the glass. He did a series of those paintings using collage and like kind of paper pieces and painting on the glass. And the background is also some carved cardboard that he painted. Yeah, that was the beginning. And then a few years later, it made a lot more over there on the wall.
Okay, so maybe we can just move through the space and then we'll focus on the individual pieces when Lasse is talking, and we'll also have the slideshow.
Yeah, and this is like paintings and monoprints that he did, I think in the 1991. It was called Stones of the Sky. He had a show at the UMass Gallery with that work in 91. That's an etching with 2 different plates.
So Nicole, were you always part of the art process? Like, were you watching all the work that Marc was doing?
Well, not all the time, but often, because we shared a studio. And when we didn't share a studio at Cove Street, he had a studio at home. So I pretty much always saw what he was doing.
So how was his like everyday routine in the studio?
He would go early and work all day when he could. The last 10 years was harder for him because he was chair of the department, so he didn't have as much time. But when he wasn't being the chair anymore, he would spend more time in the studio. And he was really looking forward to work again in his studio after the renovation of our house. And he did a lot of pinhole photography. These were the other painting that he did with collage and glass. And he always made all his frames, so he tried different styles of frame with that work. These are pinhole photos that he did in 2002.
So he had some of those pictures that we are looking at the Paris show that they organized.
Yeah.
There was a cup with coffee somewhere there, and it was like, he was such a pleasure to work with. He was great. Yeah, and it's such a whimsical piece. And like seeing him around the school with the, what was it, like an oatmeal box? What was the?
Yeah, that was with the oatmeal box.
So strange and so hilarious how this high art could be made with such a, you know, unarty object as an oatmeal box. And I have him, like, I picture him with this box, like walking out to New Bedford at his little walk, and it was really so much fun to see.
And these are also pinhole done with the oval box, so it's long and skinny.
So pinhole was just like tiny, teeny hole, and he had a photo paper, and he would create these one-of-a-kind monoprints of the whatever view he had focused on.
This is a new piece. This is I think it's an etching and painting. But that's a new piece I just put there. It's not.
It's not in chronological order.
And more photos, and these were photos he did in Spain and in Italy. Mostly Italy, I think. Spain is farther. Yeah, those were done in Italy.
Was it a special trip? Would you do a special trip, or was it just part of his?
He was teaching with Tony at in Nociano.
Anthony Miralia?
Pardon?
Anthony Miralia?
Yeah. So he went 2 years in a row to teach there. So we took photos, and I met him in Rome, and 1 year, and the other year we went together to Sicily and then to Rome, and I left from Rome to come back here, and he went to teach.
Was he teaching photography?
Pinhole, yeah, pinhole photography.
You know, that's one, he was teaching alternative processes, and it's one class that I always wanted to take at UMass, but I just couldn't, you know, like I really regret not.
Bad.
Like he would have these students doing these strange things, and then having these like wonderful blue small pictures that were distorted and amazing, and students would be just so excited about the process. There was something magic of, you know, having that like little cardboard box and having a little hole and letting light develop in that you know, such a boring little object, and having this like magical works of art in there.
Yeah, last year when he had a show here at Dedee's, it was only pinhole photography, and they had recreated a room where you could sit down and see how the image transferred on the wall from the little hole. It was pretty interesting.
Where's the pinhole box now?
At home, we have a lot of pinhole boxes.
So how many boxes do you have at home?
I don't know how many, but we have a big one that he used for the photos of the show he had here last year. It's made with a sonar tube. And we have a few little ones, and we have some oval ones, and I don't know, we have a bunch of them. He also used the Elga camera that he made into a pinhole also. And I think there was a Nikon he made into a pinhole also.
Oh, so much fun. That must have been so much fun to do that. Such a hunt for images.
He really liked to try new processes, and like in printmaking for his class, he researched a lot of non-toxic inks and solvents and all that they could use in school instead of what they were using before. So he was really into trying to find the latest that was available for his students.
Yeah, wonderful.
And so we move on to this series. Was a series called The Night Bird, and he called it like that because of his mom, who died the semester he was on sabbatical in 2009, and he worked in his studio every day that he could, so he made 60 of those. He had a goal to make one every day that he was in the studio. So he was at least 60 days in the studio, except for the time we went to Quebec because his mom was dying. And we also went for 3 weeks to Spain at that time, Barcelona and Madrid. So, but the rest of the time he worked in the studio, and he made 60 of these little beauty. That's when he started to do encaustic. And so he would do collages of his prints and then work over them with encaustic.
And what is that when the color?
That was all black and white. He worked a lot in black and white for a while, and then he came back to color. In 2009, he was doing black and white, and he did a lot of big drawings. We have a few in here of drawings he did with charcoal and also placa paint. And so this is a drawing. This is a collage and drawing and a little bit of encaustic over. And this one too has encaustic. But these ones are like these 4 are drawings that he did with.
Can you just mention quickly what encaustic means and how does that process?
Well, encaustic is to work with hot wax. So he had a little hot plate where he melted the hot wax, and then he could work with it with a brush. And he also scraped after putting the wax, he would scrape it, and sometimes he would put wires and put the wax over the wires and then remove the wire to make lines. He invented all kind of way to do what he wanted. And,
there's more encaustics on the side.
He had a great time when he was in the studio. That was his favorite time, I think, to be in the studio. And so these are drawings. This is another encaustic in black and white with just a little bit of color. That's when he started to put some color in it. And then he did a bunch of collages with his prints. And that's when he started to use more color again. And that was, I don't know which year it was exactly, probably 2010 or something like that, 2011. It was after.
It says it on the back.
Yeah, well, we have it on the paper. And then he did a lot of encaustic paintings, and these are a few of the ones we have. We have more than that, but this is some example of his encaustic paintings that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And last year he did that show here of pinhole photography with Marion Roth from Provincetown. And so he made this huge camera where he could, these ones are just photo paper that he put in the camera. And so it's a negative image. And there's only one of them, of each. And these ones here are all printed in blueprint. So he had put in the camera, he had put the negative. And so he developed a negative image, which was that size. And then he put it on the paper that was prepared with the solution for blueprint and exposed it to the light. And so these were all taken last year.
I remember him working on that and trying to decide which tree is better, which image is better. He had them in at the Star Store building at UMass Dartmouth. So,
yeah.
So that's where the magic was happening. He was trying to, decide which images are, the selection.
Yeah, he developed them all at the school, in the darkroom at the school.
It was so amazing to see the process happening. And I feel so lucky to have been able to be part of it, at least for a few, precious moments.
This is one of our favorite with the New Bedford boat.
Mm-hmm.
And the trees are beautiful. And this is the last encaustic he ever did. He really, really liked that one. And it was bigger than all the others he had done before. And he finished it last year.
It's amazing to see the scale, because I saw the image on the screen and it's very different. So it's really nice to actually see it in the real space, even though you can't be there, but it's great.
Yeah.
To watch that in real life, so to speak. Thank you so much, Nicole. We're gonna watch this short slideshow that John Robson generously agreed on sharing with us. And then we'll move to Lasse, just a couple of minutes. So it was a slideshow, and I can come back to it, Lasse, if you are interested later. But I wanted to give you a chance to talk now.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to be here, and I enjoyed, of course, the way Nicole presented their lives and thinking about how I fit into that, which is that I was already at what was actually the Southeastern Massachusetts University when the merger happened with the Swain School. And so I met Marc short time after that, I think, and it really didn't take that long a time before we developed a friendship. And that lasted until his death and was very important for me. So I have in many ways followed his art and seen how his art has developed. And I think one thing that I could mention that was important for both Marc and me was that we really were sort of fascinated by the graphic world of printmaking world, really the black and white sort of complexity of the print work. This is print world. This is often what we talked about when we talked and looked at together at certain artist work. And even though Marc worked in colors and did great work in colors, I think he really had a love, which I do too, for the complexity of a world that is really black and white with some slight range of other colors in it. And I think we can follow when we see Marc's work that he remained an abstract artist, of course not in his photographs, but as a painter, printmaker. He was an abstract artist, and for him, you work on a certain surface, you work on a certain setup as an artist. And for him, it was always a question of how you, even though you're abstract, you create what we would call a narrative world or a narrative space. And so in a way, it's almost a kind of theatricality. You set up certain forms, and these forms are sort of hiding, or they speak to other forms, and they move depending on where you look. So that was really his ongoing investigation. And as we saw some of the early work, he used glass, and he would literally build imagery on the glass and have this kind of proscenium and more of a direct sort of theatrical space. I think when he moved into using wax, I feel his work really came into something very special, because the wax allowed for a different kind of, I guess we can call it ambiguity. You could see it, but you couldn't see it, which also means that light is presented in a certain way, but moves in another way at the same time. So you have that complexity, and like Nicole mentioned, he applied the wax, but he would also, for example, scrape back into the wax and fill the lines with paint, and maybe even go over again with wax. So there was an embedding that he achieved that you could see when the early work with the glass plates, he could now achieve in these wax works. And a special favorite of mine certainly is, as Nicole pointed out, the Nightbird series. And while I was the director of the gallery, I actually featured that work in the old gallery on the Paul Rudolph campus. And at that time, the gallery was all of the space, which it is now. And I guess it was, maybe even Nicole said, something like 60 works installed in a total white space. And each of these small gems of a painting were put up with a space between them. So you slowly moved around in the space and experienced each one. And it was really like a musical masterpiece in many ways. It really sort of performed in the space, even though it was so minimal at the same time. very elegant, and I felt very, very profound work.
Thank you so much, Lasse. Did you want to go back to any particular artworks?
No, I mean, if you would want to.
I just want to give you a chance to discuss any other. This was really informative. Like
Yeah,
any.
You can find a work, sure.
So I actually have this image here with the scholarship information, but I'll do that at the end. But I think I'll go back to the slideshow because I feel like that's such a beautiful work and it just went through so quickly. Let me share it and.
Yeah, John Robson did a beautiful job on that. I mean, he's a master photographer and really gave full due to the work.
Am I sharing this screen? No, I'm sharing. Okay.
There it is. Yeah.
There we go. And I'll put the sound lower. And if you want me to stop anywhere, I'll be happy to.
Yeah, maybe there.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is, Nicole, this is a late work, right?
Oops, Nicole, I'm sorry. I have to unmute you, Nicole. Sorry,
Okay. Yeah, this is the last piece he made.
Yeah. And I can only see half of it, the image. I don't know.
Wait, I'll start sharing better. Give me 1 second. So let me share screen properly. Okay, is this better?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Mm-hmm.
So, well, looking at this, in some ways, it reminds me of something that Marc and I did a lot together. For some years, we would bring students down to New York. I would often arrange that through the gallery. Marc would join, or simply Marc and I would drive down to New York together, often like leaving really early on a Friday morning and come back very late on Friday night. And we really just looked at a lot of different exhibitions. And we would develop our, I think, sensibility together in many ways by discussing the work we were looking at. So I can, in many ways, when I look at this work, I feel almost I'm with Marc. And even though I'm looking at Marc's work, I could say things like, you know, it's really interesting the way the orange in the top is sort of breaking through on the left through the green, but it doesn't quite. And then you have this diagonal, the kind of almost a white line, but it doesn't really divide. It's only indicating that, but everything is a blue grid on the right and so on. You can keep looking at this, and which is the way that I think those of us who enjoy the visual arts really look at it and find little fragments. You look at it, think about why is there this little red line that is broken, but it goes through the white line I just mentioned over to the left side, and then it's allowed to go up a little bit with orange. So that orange plays off of the orange in the background. You can shift in your eyes then, and you can begin to pick up on the white lines and see where they play out and how they speak to each other, different places in the image. So they have a role like that. And then you can jump away from that and you can look at maybe, let's say, the gray areas. There's almost like a kind of windows, darkened windows. And you can follow how they set up a rhythm, how they set up a direction, and so on. And you know, I think this work is really masterful. It's beautifully done. The right-hand side has a very stable type of area, and then much more complexity in the middle, and more stable, but still tilted on the left. And yet all of the sections, basically maybe 4 sections vertically, 2 sections horizontally, but then shifted up and down. All of that is just played with, it's in harmony, but at the same time, it also offset the other parts. It's sort of negating, letting different parts negate each other. and that way establishing a conversation. And before you know it, you can spend a long time looking at a work like this.
Well, thank you. Your explanation really helps to see all the things that are happening and tensions there.
He was also a lot into maps and architecture. I think you see that a lot in his work too.
Yes, yes. Yeah, if you stop here, for example, that is, like Nicole points out, there are maps in there. Marc really began to collect maps and really loved maps, and he would in different ways transfer what you maybe could call descriptive lines, let's say of a river or something like that, from a map, and have that in the work, so that you get, again, these kinds of narratives. They are abstracted away from directly descriptive, but it's the language of map making that he was looking for, how things are indicated in order to read in a certain way, but it is also abstract at the same time. Yeah, so this is
It was always the grid.
of the earlier work. Nicole, about when? Do you remember? Yeah.
When he started using the grid?
Yeah, no, the glass.
The glass, I think it was early 90s.
Early 90s, okay, yeah. Yeah, and these I had never seen, so this before. This is just really wonderful to see about how much of a minimalist background Marc really comes from. Yeah, this
is really like Frank Stella,
yeah,
which we can see the influence a little.
Yeah. Frank Stella is somebody we looked at a lot, and I actually featured him at the University Art Gallery. So for Marc, that was also a great experience, because there was a time period when the art world, in a way, was very affluent, and prints were really appreciated. So Frank Stella could make prints that at that time would go on the market for like $10,000. And they were extraordinarily complex, with many, many different kinds of techniques, collage built in, actually hand applied areas, and so on. So that's when you have, and of course, Marc was a master printer, so he knew all about what this was. And this is what you can do if you're an artist like Frank Stella and you have a whole crew of people working for you. But when you look at a piece like this here, for example, Marc is achieving just a wonderful play of mark making and soft and hard lines and so on, that it totally stands on its own, has just a beauty in it that you cannot really do in any other way than the way he did it.
Oh, Marc was also the most photogenic person I ever met.
I know, unlike me.
Yeah, I never saw anybody that you can just take pictures of and every picture looks like, you know, like amazing. And then also I see him like the project where he was playing, you know, like 19th century.
Irvin Melville.
Melville is like such a great fit. And I can add the link under this video so people can have a look at that movie too.
And of course, we can also mention that those of us who knew him, just what an incredible storyteller Marc was. I mean, he really had a talent that was beyond most people, because we can all sort of, I mean, Marc was able to tell a story about how he just had to go and pick something up at Home Depot or something. And it became like, it would go through all stages of like absurdity and fun and so on. And he was never negative in this, in the way that he just saw the humor in it and the many incidents and so on. And I think that is reflected in his artwork too.
And Nicole, since you have his computer that you turn on for the first time now after all this time, and it says Marc St. Pierre, I almost feel like he's really with us.
Yeah.
Like he's part of this conversation, and I feel his vibe here. And I want to thank all of you and thank Marc for creating these beautiful artworks that we could enjoy and appreciate together, and for being who he was.
Thank you, Viera, for putting this together, and Lasse for helping, and Antoine. And Dedee Shattuck for providing the space.
Hosting it, yep. Thank you to everybody.
And I just show last thing I wanted to share, which is this information about the scholarship. If anybody feels like participating in this, so it was really nice to hear about this, and have Marc still support students at UMass Dartmouth and their work.
Yeah, we started a scholarship for a graduate student, and we already have about $9,000 right now. So talking with the dean, we found out that if we raise $25,000, there's going to be an endowment, and it would be a scholarship for life for $1,000 a year for a second year student in graduate student in printmaking. So we're designing a web page right now to try to raise more money to make it to 25,000. So it would be a nice legacy for Marc.
Absolutely.
At the school.
Thank you so much for working on that, and thank you for everybody who contributed to the scholarship fund. And with that, thank you again for joining us this AHA night. I really appreciate your time, and it was lovely. And we'll be checking. There was no live comments, but if there are any questions, we'll get back to them, and we'll answer them here on Facebook. And thank you, and have a lovely day, everybody who joined us today.
Okay, thank you, Viera.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.